Hello everyone, welcome back to the SharePoint Framework series. I'm Akshay, and in this episode, we will be exploring how to work with APIs in SPFX. APIs are essential for building dynamic and interactive web parts, as they allow us to fetch data from external sources or SharePoint itself. By the end of this video, you will be able to connect your SPFX web part to an API, fetch data, and display it dynamically. Let's get started. Let's start with the basics. What are APIs? APIs, or application programming interfaces, allow different software applications to communicate with each other. In the context of SPFX, we use APIs to fetch data from external services like weather APIs or public datasets, retrieve information from SharePoint lists and libraries, create dynamic interactive web parts that update based on user inputs or external data. Today, we will be working with simple public API to demonstrate how to fetch and display data in SPFX web part. The first step is selecting and testing an API. For this tutorial, we will use the JSON placeholder API, which is great for testing because it provides mock data. Here, you can see the endpoint displayed on the screen. To test this API, open your browser and paste the URL. You will see a JSON response with list of users, including their names, emails, and addresses. You will see JSON similar to the image on the right hand side of the screen. This is the data we will display in our SPFX web part. To fetch data from an external API in SPFX, we use the HTTP client class. Here is how to set it up. Open your hello world webpart.ts file in Visual Studio Code. Please note this is not the hello world.tsx file that we have been seeing in the previous tutorials. Add the import at the top of the file. This allows us to send HTTP request and handle the response directly in the web part. Now, let's write the code to fetch data from the API. In the hello world webpart.ts file, create a new private method called fetchUsers. This method sends a GET request to the API and passes the JSON response, returning an array of users. We will use this method to fetch and display user data in our web part. Here, in hello world webpart.ts file, you can see that I have added the fetchUsers method at the end of the file. You can do the same in your project. Now that we can fetch the data, let's display it in our web part. Update the render method in your hello world webpart.ts file to call fetchUsers and update the data. This code fetches the user data, maps it into a HTML list and render it inside the web part. Save your changes and start the development server to see the results. I have made some modifications to the render method of this function, simplifying the code by removing unnecessary lines to ensure it works seamlessly. You can find a link to the updated file in the video description. Feel free to review the changes and incorporate them into your project. Alright, let's test our web part in the SharePoint workbench. First, open your terminal and run the gulpserve command to start the development server. If you have been following the earlier tutorials, you will already know how to do this. Once the development server is running and the terminal shows that the code changes are refreshed, head over to the SharePoint workbench and press refresh. If you don't see the web part page yet, no worries, just add it to the page. Now, you should see a list of users displayed dynamically. Go ahead and try refreshing the page or even modifying the API URL to explore the results. Here are some common issues you might encounter while working with APIs in SPFX and how to solve them. CORS errors. CORS errors issues occur when the API does not allow requests from your domain. Use API that support CORS or set up a proxy server. Incorrect endpoints. Double check the API URL and parameters for the typos. JSON parsing errors. Inspect the API response to ensure that the data structure matches your expectations. And for debugging, use the browser's developer tool to monitor network requests and inspect the responses. Let's recap what we covered today. We selected and tested JSON placeholder API. We used the HTTP client class to fetch data, displayed the fetched data dynamically in our web part, reviewed some common issues and debugging tips. In the next video, we will take a step further by deploying your SPFX web part to SharePoint Online. Stay tuned. Great job following along. If you found this video useful and helpful, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss further episodes. I would love to hear from you which APIs you're excited to use in your SPFX web part. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video where we will learn how to deploy a SPFX web part to SharePoint Online. Until then, happy coding.